Hello, this is Kevin Kaplan again from the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Team at the Children's Resource Center in Bowling Green, Ohio. Thanks for joining me again for another one of our tip videos. And this video's topic is about dealing with defiance. And this video is targeted towards teachers in early childhood, so those child care professionals. The first thing we need to think about is what is defiance? And so defining that can look like many different things. It might look like not doing what is asked. So we're asking a child to do something and they just don't seem to be listening or following through. They might appear to be ignoring, avoiding, or mocking us or someone else. They might be doing the opposite of what we're asking them to do or what they should be doing. They might appear to just be resistant to anything. They might have all of those behaviors all rolled up into one. And you might also see running and breaking or damaging things. This doesn't mean that all children exhibiting defiance do those things or that all of those things are mean that your child is being defiant. As we know, children's behavior is a very complicated thing, and there's a lot of different factors to consider. So, what does it mean if your child is being defiant or you're observing some behavior in your classroom that looks like defiance? Well, we first need to think, is it part of normal development? So those really young children, early toddlers, late toddlers, or children who just have not had the experience and are not at that place or developmental level to be able to manage their behavior, their feelings, their emotions in effective ways. And so they might appear to be defiant when in fact they just can't do what we're asking them to do. That's just not in their skill set. And that's okay. That's something that we can work towards building. Children also have emotions that get in the way of them fulfilling their expectations or achieving their goals. And that goes right along with development and experience. If children haven't had the experience or their brain is not at the developmental level to make sense of that experience in a way that helps them to be successful, then we have to give them time to have that. So it's expected. Some level of defiance is expected or defiant behavior. There are also individual differences to consider. We would want to think about a child's temperament. So are they easygoing or do they appear to be very rigid in their preferences and their attitude or demeanor? Are they really, really shy or are they just run right in and jump right into things without a care? And those are the two extremes. There's children that fall all in the middle of those two things. So, at one end, we have a child who maybe sits still and doesn't do anything. And then on the other hand, you might have a child that is into everything and has a hard time focusing on anything particular. And so we're not looking necessarily for either of those extremes, but we're trying to be mindful of where the child is at on that spectrum of or paradigm or whatever you want to call it. Where are they falling on that ruler? Are they closer to this end or closer to this end or right in the middle? Because that can sometimes play into this. They might not be defiant if they in fact are so overwhelmed with excitement that they're running across the room to play with a toy. They're not that behavior is not targeting you. That behavior is not being defiant of you in your authority or your guidance and discipline. It is just that it's their internal sense that's compelling them to go play with that particular toy or person. Or on the other hand, it's that internal drive that's got them sitting in the chair and not doing anything. So those are things you want to consider. Along with temperament is their sensory preferences. So for some children, a really loud room might cause them to exhibit challenging behavior. If they prefer a quieter room or they're used to a quieter room. And on the other hand, children who are used to more excitement and more activity going on may prefer that sensory overload experience. And they may really seem to thrive in that, whereas they might have difficulties sitting still longer for longer periods or staying focused for longer periods. So you want to think about that. Where does the kiddo fall on that ruler? And then how about your relationship, thinking about how long of time you've had to build a relationship with this kiddo? Because if they're new to your classroom, or if you have not had a lot of time spent with them, chances are they're going to appear to be a little more defiant or resistant. Versus if you've had more time to spend with them, then chances are they're going to follow through more with whatever discipline you're trying to use. Behavior is also known to be a way to gain or avoid something. So we try to look at behavior as though all behavior means something. And the point is really to try and understand what it's telling us. Are they trying to gain something by doing the behavior that we're seeing, or are they trying to get away from something? You really want to think about that. Why is this so challenging? And, first and foremost, safety is a big one because, especially for those runners or children who are like just into everything, they may not be aware of where their body parts are at all times or what they're getting into, or they may make choices or do things before anyone's had a chance to maybe catch them and guide them. And so we really we're really concerned about children's safety. We really want to support them. So that makes it challenging. And we want their respect. We want them to respect us as the teacher. And so that's really challenging when it seems like they don't respect us. And we want what's best for them. We really want them to be successful and we really care about them. So that makes it, even more challenging because when we're providing them all the support that we can bring them in that moment and it doesn't seem like they're being successful, that can really make things seem tough. And so building responsibility is something that we want to do with them, but we have to take time and patience to understand the behavior first to help them with that. And we want them to be good characters and good human beings and in general. So that also makes it challenging. And sometimes they show you that they can do better, right? Sometimes we see them do what we want them to do. And that's so frustrating because then when they don't do it, we're pulling our hair out. And it's important to know that responding with any type of aggression or punitive measures to shame or punish the child is more than likely going to result in more challenges over time. So keep in mind that we don't want to punish children for behavior that they they maybe don't know how to, they maybe are having a hard time managing it themselves. So we're gonna bite ourselves in the foot by punishing them because they are having a hard time. It, it's almost like if your manager put you in a position that you didn't know or understand quite well, a job or a role that you didn't do very well at or know the skills to do it well, and then expected you to do it perfectly and then reprimanded you for not doing it perfectly, that would really give you some negative feelings, right? So we don't want to put children in that position. So the next question you might be asking is, what can you do about it? Well, I brought you some strategies from the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children that I'm going to share with you. And again, we want to think first and foremost, like, is this developmentally appropriate? Is the child at the stage where they can achieve this skill successfully? And that doesn't just mean age wise. This means because children's development doesn't happen exactly at a certain age for every single child, right? It's a spectrum or a range of those things happening at slightly different ages. And so think that first, wonder to yourself, can they do this? And then what's going on in that child's life? What kind of things are happening? Is there a lot of stress at home? Is their morning very rushed? Is, are their parents available and present when they drop them off? Or are they hurried and kind of scoot them in the door and run away? Like, just looking for cues to try to determine, what might be going on to affect the child's behavior, and asking yourself that question, if they could do better, would they? Because 99, if not more, than 99% of the time, children will do better if they can do better. And that doesn't just mean being able to do it once or a few times. That means building the skill to do it all the time. So if we just see them do it a few times here and there, that doesn't mean that they have mastered the skill to do it all the time. We want to practice the calm adult response. So keeping yourself calm and collected, and wonder, what is the child seeking by doing this behavior? Are they trying to get attention? Focus on the positives. So it can be really easy to focus in on what the child is not doing. And in fact, that's what it seems like our instinct goes to first and foremost. I don't know if that's because a lot of us were raised that way, but you can really turn around the situation with a child if you focus on what they're doing well. That changes from a negative experience to them having positive experiences, which boost not only your mood, but their mood, and it increases your relationship, which will reduce the amount of attention that they seek from you. So think also about, is it are you seeking control of the child, or are you seeking compliance? Because oftentimes we will try to do different forms of discipline that are geared towards controlling the child, when what we really should be going for is compliance. We want them to follow along with us. Think about a time when maybe someone was teaching you something and they forced you or bossed you around into doing it. They stood over your shoulder every single minute and told you what you weren't doing right. And if you can imagine a time when that happened to you, you'll know how stressful it is. And if you can think of a time where someone tried to teach you something and they took the time to reinforce all of the positives that you were doing and how you were doing so well, and they didn't really focus on the negatives, and when you had an experience with that person, you felt safe, you felt more competent, and you felt a lot of respect for that person. So compliance really breeds a different kind of environment. And then think, how can this information help you prepare and support the child? Once you've gathered all that information and kind of tried to answer those questions, that's what you want to think. And so next are the strategies to consider. The first one is talk about it. And in talk about it, we're again just practicing our calm and offering calm support to the child, being present in the moment, focusing in just for a few minutes or a minute or some seconds, just focusing on that child and nothing else. Maybe asking how they're feeling and mirroring their expression. This can be done with your own face, or you can do it with feeling faces. Show and express understanding for what they're going through. Sure, maybe they've done this well a few times, but they haven't mastered it. So, you know, maybe getting down on their level and say, I see that this is difficult for you. I know that this kind of thing can be hard. I understand it's hard. And then offering your support and helping them. This could be by sharing safety language, reminding them that you're there to keep them safe and it's their job to help you keep them safe, reminding them of the rules, but asking them maybe why they had done something, and then allowing them to share and talk about it. So, talking about it isn't just you talking, it's allowing them a chance to talk. Practicing it, it takes many attempts. As I've already said, one, two, three, five, 10 times doesn't necessarily mean a child has mastered it. Allow many times for them to practice a new skill. Give them visual examples of the skill. If this is something you really want the child to be successful in, and you're really seeing how they're being challenged, and they're not able to do it successfully, hang pictures up about the behavior or the desired skill. Talk through it with your class, step by step. Model it. Maybe have a couple children model that and help by showing them what it should look like, because children learn almost no better way than by seeing it done for them, and that's how we all learn, even adults. So, you know as adults, we have the capacity to learn a new skill possibly by reading in a book, but man, don't those books help when they have some pictures? How about the instruction manuals to furniture and things like that, right? When Can you imagine putting together a piece of that furniture where you have 100 different pieces and there were no pictures? Could you imagine? Oh my gosh, that would just drive me crazy. So think about ways that you can include visuals, and then make it a part of the routine. So, you know, don't just do it once, hang it up somewhere, or, do it as often as you can to help them build that skill. And then you can taper that back or take it away once that seems to have, once they seem to be more successful with it. Model and role play is another one. So beyond hanging pictures up, having children actually practice the behavior, right? So you ever seen a child do the exact same thing you just did? And that's just their brain learning and practicing, right? So we're just going to recreate that for them by setting up the environment so that they can do this skill successfully or see others do it successfully. There's a great resource on this from the Michigan State University also. And if you can see the link, it's called Monkey See, Monkey Do. And it just reinforces the fact that children really do learn from modeling. And you can also find some ideas on Pinterest and Teachers Pay Teachers. Using visuals, as I've already said, is a huge thing. Um, Children need that, and it gives them an example to look back on. If you're hanging this on the wall, it's great. You can also take pictures of other children doing it, or the child themselves doing the desired behavior, so they can see again what it looks like. There's a good example or some good resource information from Vanderbilt um, on visual supports. So maybe Google that, or the Head Start office also has something on visual supports. Maybe Google that, check those out. Also, some additional information on Pinterest and Teachers Pay Teachers. There's some paid material on there. And then schedule and routines is another way to support children in reducing defiance and challenging behaviors, because this helps them prepare for what's next. When children know what's coming next, it really helps them be more successful. Imagine going to work every day and not maybe having a clock, because a lot of children can't tell time. So imagine not having a clock on your wall and not knowing when the work was going to end, or when you had to be where, what time it was, so that you could prepare your next movement or your next decision, or get them ready for lunch. So children often are in that mental state where they don't know really what's next, because they need a routine established where they do the same thing pretty much all the time in order for them to have a concept of what's happening next. So find a way that you can tighten your schedule and increase those routines to help things get smoother. It also helps children to feel a sense of trust and reliability in their day, in their world, if they know what's coming next. There's some great information from naeyc.org that you can check out. And again, from the Center and Social and Emotional Foundations for Early Learning has a great resource on this. And I'm sure you can also look some other stuff up on the internet for that. Another strategy is social stories. And social stories are a great way to help children build skill and learn about preferred or desirable behavior by talking, helping them to understand why the behavior is preferred, the safety and the rules around it, preferred behaviors like the positive ones that we would like them to have. And there's a lot of social stories out there. The carolgraysocialstories.com has some free stuff. Teachers Pay Teachers has some paid for stuff and maybe some free stuff. I didn't see anything recently. But you can also do an internet search. Socialstorycenter.com is some free stuff on there. ABA Resources and PBIS World also has some free stuff. So reach out to the Children's Resource Center Early Childhood Mental Health team if you have questions. And my email is kevink@crcwoodcounty.org. If you're in Northwest Ohio and you're looking for information or support for early childhood, check out 0to3.org for some great information on Defiance and also the Devereux Center for Resilient Children. Thank you so much for joining me again on another video. Have a good one.